Good evening. It's now 6:30 and I call to order the regular meeting of the Victoria City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda this evening is announcements. We will be discussing our 2024 budget during our next City Council workshop, which is scheduled for November 13th. The workshop will begin at 5 p.m. Our Truth in Taxation budget hearing has been scheduled for 6:30 on Monday, December 11th. We will be taking public input on our 2024 proposed budget and levy. While this is our formal hearing, we encourage all community members to provide comment on our budget prior to December 11th's hearing, as we're hard at work developing and refining that budget now. All meetings of the City Council are open to the public and held in council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. If you're interested in speaking at a council meeting, we encourage you to contact our city clerk for more information. In other announcements, we hope to see everyone at the Halloween event this Saturday, October 28th. The family-friendly event is organized by the Victoria Lions and the Victoria Business Association and will take place in downtown Victoria at participating businesses from 1 to 2 p.m. There will also be a family-friendly games at Bayfront Park from 1:30 to 3:30. The next item on the agenda is to adopt the final agenda. Sorry, I'm going to back up here a little bit. There is one proclamation this evening, which is recognizing the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I will read that proclamation. A proclamation declaring October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas more than 10 million adults experience domestic violence and over 1.5 million high school students are physically abused by dating partners annually in the United States. And whereas more than 23,000 calls are placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide every day. And whereas calls to our local domestic abuse crisis line, Southern Valley Alliance, have more than doubled in the last 2 years. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is felt not only by individuals and families, but communities and the nation as a whole. And whereas the City of Victoria joins with others across the state of Minnesota and nationwide in supporting domestic violence victims and survivors, the advocates and organizations who serve them, and holding offenders accountable in Victoria. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Victoria Council members do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, can I get a motion?
Motion to adopt the final agenda.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a second with Councilmember Evansky. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item, which is open forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda and not an application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. We had one individual register to speak in advance, and now I'd like to invite Ms. Katie Schauman from Southern Valley Alliance to the podium. Ms. Schauman, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again and for proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We greatly appreciate it. So my name is Katie Schauman. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Southern Valley Alliance. We are the domestic abuse service provider for Carver and Scott counties and have been servicing the community for over 40 years. And over the last 40 years have had the opportunity to assist over 23,000 individuals as they try to lead healthy, violence-free lives. And 276 of those individuals resided here in Victoria. We'd like to think that domestic violence doesn't happen in our own backyards, but the truth is that domestic violence can happen anywhere and at any time. And as that proclamation shared, calls to our 24/7 crisis line have more than doubled over the last 2 years. So definitely seeing an increased need within our community. And as a response to that, I shared last year, we are in the process of building a new domestic abuse advocacy center in downtown Shakopee. And I'm excited to announce that we will be moving in December, which is super exciting. We will definitely share information with you all, as we'd love to have you come and see our new space. And we hope to open first of the year to the public. So really looking forward to the opportunities that that new space is going to open for our organization to be able to serve the community better, to be centralized between the two counties that we serve, being directly across the street from the courthouse in Scott County, only being a 10-minute drive for court in Carver County, and more accessibility for those in need. So really looking forward to that and excited to share that with you all tonight. Also just wanted to thank you for your continued support, again, for the proclamation this evening. And letting you all know that there are many ways to get involved. By working together, we truly can eradicate domestic abuse from happening within our community. And you can learn to get involved by visiting our website, which is svamn.org. But just grateful for the opportunity to be here and share. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for the good work that you do.
Thank you. Any questions?
Council, questions?
I think you've said in the past that needing beds, right, basically, or places to stay
Yeah,
in Carver
housing.
County is a big thing. Is that still kind of?
Yes, so
the
there
same?
is still no domestic abuse shelter or homeless shelter in Carver or Scott counties, which is a huge barrier that we face every day. And we try and bridge that gap in a few different ways. So we do provide emergency hotel stays for individuals that are in need. We also partner with Minnesota Day One, which is a network of all of the agencies across the state. So if shelter is best option for that individual, we can know which shelters have beds available, how many provide transportation. And then in May of this year, we launched a brand new transitional housing program in partnership with the Carver County CDA. And we just recently launched also housing within Scott County. So we have 8 scattered site locations. It's not like a shelter, it's more of a transition for individuals that are ready to get back out on their feet. We cover that apartment cost for 6 to 12 months. Then they have an opportunity to fully take over that lease after that time is complete.
Terrific. Council, other questions? Councilmember Gunderson.
What's the crisis number?
It is 952-873-4214. That is our 24/7 free and confidential crisis line. Anyone can call, whether you're experiencing abuse, maybe you're a concerned family member or friend, or you're just questioning some unhealthy aspects of your relationship and you're seeking some advice.
Is there another number that's not crisis?
If you call that same number and then wait and listen to the phone tree, then it'll give you other options to connect with different staff members individually.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Council, anything else? All right. Thank you so much, Katie. It was good to
Thank
see you
you.
again.
Yes, enjoy your evening.
Thanks. All right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda this evening? All right, seeing no one, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine administrative and don't require deliberation or are housekeeping items that are required by law. They're approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Swanson, does staff wish to pull any consent items?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Council, anything from council? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to pull a consent agenda item for separate discussion and vote? Seeing none, I will take a motion for the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on to the regular agenda. The first item on our agenda this evening is item 6.1, which is to review our Planning Commission mid-year report. Our staff liaison will introduce the topic and Chair Kuhn will be presenting. Mr. McCann and Chair Kuhn, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. My apologies. Tonight we have Planning Commission Chair Kuhn, who will provide the mid-year report to the council.
Chair Kuhn, welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. On April 10th, the City Council endorsed our work plan for the upcoming year. The plan was reviewed and adopted by the Planning Commission in February. The Commission has undertaken comprehensive reviews of various ordinances, including those related to changes in the Central Business District, fence requirements, process enhancements, revisions to shoreline standards within the central business district. Additionally, efforts include review of recommendations of process improvement ordinance policies to simplify and clarify city code and city development policies. Over the past 6 months, the Planning Commission has reviewed the following: 1 sketch plat, 4 preliminary plats, 1 final plat, 1 annexation, 5 variances, 2 conditional use permits, 1 comprehensive plan amendment, 5 zoning or planned unit developments, 6 ordinances, and 8 public hearings were conducted. Several significant land use projects within the city of Victoria have been reviewed, including the Roars project, which just broke ground today, the Ameris Senior Living Facility, as well as resident developments in Hunters Brook, Hunters Glen, and Hunters Brook Creekside. In addition to the responsibilities, the Planning Commission has scheduled an annual orientation for Wednesday, November 8th, ahead of our regular scheduled evening meeting. The orientation provides an opportunity for commissioners to align their objectives and knowledge in preparation for the year's upcoming task and ensure that we are well informed and equipped to carry out the duties effectively. Lastly, I'd like to thank the city staff for all the support that they give the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, you guys have been busy. Thank you for your good hard work. The Planning Commission does a lot of our heavy lifting here at the council level on those new and developing plats and neighborhoods. So we appreciate the good work that you guys do. Council, questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thanks to Chair Kuhn for his leadership, having spent time on the Planning Commission with him side by side. I'm glad that we have a very capable, effective leader that, as you said, does a great job of vetting things for us so that you make us look like our jobs are easy. So thank you for that hard work.
Thank you. We have a great group of commissioners on the Planning Commission, and we always can use more, so.
So if you are interested in dipping your toe into the city development business, we'll have some openings on the Planning Commission.
Yep.
Alyssa, do you know when we review those applications, when we ask and review for applications?
That is a great question, Mayor, Council, anyone in the audience or watching at home. We do currently have open seats on the Planning Commission if anyone is interested in applying today for 2 alternate positions. Additionally, in January, that's when we will open up the full enrollment period, and that's for all of our committees and commissions.
Okay, so January, so give it some thought. If you're interested, we have great help at the city staff level who can answer questions about what all those tasks and job description looks like, so thank you for that. All right, council, last call.
Thank you.
Thank you. We don't need to take any action on this item this evening, so on that note, we'll move on to the next item, which is item 6.2, which is a mid-year report for our Park and Rec Committee. Our Assistant City Manager is here for introductions. Ms. Swanson, and Mr. Larry Schultz is our chair, and he will provide the report. So let's start with Ms. Swanson, please.
Of course, thank you, Mayor, and I'm going to invite Mr. Schultz to step up to the podium and provide the mid-year update, and of course, he knows that I'm here if he has any questions or anything that you'd like me to add.
Okay,
Chair Schultz, welcome.
all right. Nice to be here. I'd like to start by thanking the council for your ongoing support of our parks. As the city of lakes and parks, obviously parks are a very important part of it, and we wouldn't have what we have now without the support of the council and your ongoing support. I'd like to acknowledge our committee, Jeanette June, Mary Larson, who's here this evening, Don Wittenberg, Terry Cope, Amanda Cahill, and Greg McCurry. Couple big things that were done this year. We were able to complete the pickleball courts. We had the grand opening. I believe most of you, if not all of you, attended that. They're being used on a regular basis, and I hear many positive things about our addition of those courts. Along with that project, we also relocated the skate park, which has now been completed and moved to Lions Park. Drove past there today, and there were people utilizing it, so that was a good sign. Another big thing that was finally completed was the Bavaria East Trail, and also there's a Greencrest sidewalk to kind of hook that into the main thoroughfare there and get off Church Road for those folks. That part isn't quite done. We're waiting for some utility work to be done before that can be totally completed. One other thing that took place this year is we're always looking for opportunities on the trail gaps, especially when there's new development. And a very positive thing was the Cochia road or lane, I don't know, what is it, a road, lane, avenue? Cochia has been completed, and there's now a trail and sidewalks through that area. So that's connected different parts of our community. I know I personally walk on that trail, and I meet people from the other side of Highway 5 and vice versa. People are exploring different things because now there's some access there. Lakeside Estates Park, Phase 2, is near completion. There was an issue with the turf, largely because of the very warm weather, drought conditions. There's no sprinkling system out there, so it's kind of muddy right now. So hopefully by next spring that'll be usable, but that Phase 2 was completed with additional area for play and backstops there as well. We have asked staff, as we looked at these goals, we asked staff in the future if they could define the goals and come up with measurable goals so we know if they've been completed or not. So kind of timeline and how we'll know if they're completed, what the result or outcome that we're hoping to get. Another area I'd like to point out, the last meeting reviewed community survey that was done in the Park and Rec area. There are some limitations with the survey based on design. We can't extrapolate the results to the population as a whole as a result, but I do believe the 240 approximately people that completed that survey, we can get an indication of what those people feel are the needs. And overall, I believe it came back that people feel very positively about our parks and in our community, so that was a good thing. There were some main things that came up. Of no surprise probably to anybody in this room that trail gaps continue to be brought up, and people would like to see those addressed, especially as our community gets larger and there's more traffic and it becomes more dangerous to be on some of the roads. In addition, water amenities are another area that came up in that survey. A third area was maintain what we have, make sure that we're providing maintenance, keeping things in good condition for the future. Those seem to be the themes for those people that completed the survey. The committee has talked about at future meetings maybe taking each of those items based on council's direction, of course, taking a look at those things and then providing some advice to you as far as what we see as maybe some opportunities, if there are some, as we look at it further. We also are going to be looking as a committee at an audit of our programs at the rec center. Are there programs that we could have that we don't have? Are there others that we do have that aren't utilized very well? Taking a look at that in the next few months. The last thing I'd like to address is the feeling of members of our committee that our effectiveness has been hampered over the last 5 or 6 months due to several things. We feel it's difficult for us to fulfill our responsibilities without having a person fully dedicated to our park committee. And I think we also have lacked information that we could vet ideas to provide advice to you and solicit community input. And I'd like to give you an example of one of those. And this isn't meant as a criticism, it's just meant something that I feel that you need to be aware of. In the past, when there's been a park replacement, what we have done is we've had Anne would go and either survey the people that lived in the community or meet with them to find out what their current needs are, because our neighborhoods are turning over, and sometimes the equipment and things we have are not necessarily what the current community would utilize. That information's brought back to the committee with a recommendation from staff as to what their thoughts are. That's fully vetted. We ask a lot of questions, challenge assumptions, and make sure that we feel comfortable recommending that to the council. And so those things are important. Then we go back, once we've decided the direction we want to go back, visit with the community, and say, here's what we have for funding, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. And then there's community input from that standpoint. Example is Deer Run Park that did not come before this group. So the last few months without a full-time director, we haven't fully vetted those things, and we feel bad about that because we feel a responsibility to the council to make sure, and the planning commission also, who looks at those things. We kind of take a real focus on parks, and we know that you take a broader view of, you know, the other needs of the community as well. But we feel that we need somebody that will keep us informed of those things and information so we can continue to get that community input. The other thing is the committee likes being proactive. So we've, in the past, met on a regular basis. Last 6 months or so, we've had 3 meetings canceled. We also, on an ongoing basis, have been reviewing trail gaps, not just once a year, but kind of keep those in the front and center because things change and, you know, are there new opportunities? We use that to do like you do at your meeting, talk about, are there any things that we've heard from our neighbors, friends, people in the community, or people come to our meeting to talk about, you know, what they see as opportunities with our parks. And also at meetings, we've taken a look at rec center memberships and programs to make sure we're not slipping in that area. We haven't received any of those reports since Ann's left. We've had, in the past, we've got educational materials, articles from newspapers, what other communities are doing at each meeting. That helps us be proactive. Pickleball came up as a result of that. And that allowed us to have a discussion about, is this something that we want to propose to the council in the future as far as a potential park project. And same with the CIP priorities. That's something else that we've in the past have looked at on a regular basis as new ideas come up and say, what can we propose maybe differently, instead of wait to the last minute and get a whole list of things and then not have time to vet to have a discussion as to what we want to propose as far as going forward. So I think there's an opportunity for us to continue to move forward with very positive things for our Park and Rec Committee. Again, thank you for your ongoing support. I thought you needed to be aware of where we are as a committee, and I don't just speak for myself. I believe everybody in our committee would say the same thing. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. Council, questions? All right, well, we certainly appreciate the good work that you guys are doing as advocates and ambassadors of our parks here in Victoria. We're very fortunate that we've got a great park system and lots of them. So it is a priority for us. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Mayor, before we leave this
Yeah.
topic,
Yeah, Councilmember Evansky,
I think
please.
it's just fair for the chair to understand that council really understands that we have really wonderful assets within the park system. We want to nurture that. We want to see it be used effectively. I think it's important that the public understands that we had a workshop last week, Wednesday. It took a half day where all the commissioners got together with staff to really focus on what we want to engage in as strategic priorities for the park system. We hear your comments, they're noted and received. I think that we get it. We want these assets to be used for the community. The community tells us that they're great. We read the survey. Agree with you 100% that it represents a very small vertical slice of the community, but those are the people that took the time. So absolutely, we should listen to them. And we had some good dialogue with staff, and I think that if at least from I'll share my view. I think it's your view as well that we want this gem of our community to continue to be polished and sparkle.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head here. Our most recent park plan has expired, and so we're at a point in transition, and we've had a leadership change. So we're kind of getting our arms around what the next step is for us here. So we appreciate your support and your input to that process.
We appreciate your ongoing support as well. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, again, that doesn't require any action necessary, so we'll move on to the next item, which is item 6.3, a mid-year report for our Senior Advisory Committee. Assistant City Manager Alyssa Swanson will have the floor for introductions, and then we will be hearing from Committee Member Nancy Swanson. So ladies, the floor is yours.
Yes, and I welcome Committee Member Nancy Swanson to take the podium and share the mid-year report.
Ms. Swanson, welcome.
Mayor, every time you've said Ms. Swanson, I jump because I think there's been more required of me at this meeting than I came prepared to do. Thank you for providing a channel for senior input in the city of Victoria. And sort of jumping off from Larry's discussion about Parks and Rec, one of the things that we've been doing most recently is a walking audit of 12 identified walking trails in the city of Victoria. Internally, we've already identified 5 of them as age-friendly, but as we've been doing the walking audits, we have been using the AARP guidelines and criteria for identifying any issues that may come up. We're hoping that if we do this well, we may be able to apply for grant money that would give us better wayfarer signage and bench opportunities along some of these trails. But certainly, as our group has been doing the audit, we've all been discovering parts of our beautiful city that we didn't even know existed. So to Larry's point about what a gem we have here, we've all been blessed with the opportunity to find parts of the city that we just weren't familiar with, because there are so many walking opportunities. We stay in our own neighborhood. So we are turning in our walking audits to Alyssa, and we'll be proceeding from there. A couple of years ago, when the Advisory Council was reformed, the first order of business for us was putting together a senior resource packet that identified resources in the area of recreation, health and nutrition, education, transportation, housing, and compiled that. And it was then put on the city website, and we also made hard copies of that are available within City Hall and elsewhere. But at our meeting in November, we'll be doing an annual assessment of the packet just to make sure that it remains relevant and accurate. So we do that annually ever since having completed it. That was our first heavy lifting project after the committee was reformed, was to put together the resource packet. The other thing that we attempted to do, sort of as an offshoot of putting the resources together, was a senior resource expo that we did with city staff in May of 2022. We made the decision this year not to redo that because it was redundant with other senior expos that were happening in Carver County. Chanhassen has a robust one, and many of the presenters and the vendors that were presenting at the Victoria event were also doing that in neighboring communities. So instead, we took on the role of making sure that we helped communicate the other senior expos that were already available. Let's see here. We also made recommendations to city staff, and the city adopted these, to include a 55+ table of contents in the city's program brochure and a 55+ section within the city's recreation webpage. So those have been well received. We have, and thank you very much for this, we have been asked to be a stakeholder in the development of various aspects of Downtown West Phase 1. So we've been giving input on central green space, public spaces, amenities, and the like. So thank you for asking. We also continue to engage with the Carver County Office of Aging. A representative from that office comes to all of our meetings, as does a member of the county library staff. So we have an opportunity to hear from them and to share with them. So thank you for your work on behalf of our beautiful city. You have a thankless job, and I sometimes fear that you're probably accosted in restaurants more than you're thanked. So let me take the opportunity to thank you, and thank you for having the Senior Advisory Committee. We appreciate the opportunity.
Terrific. Council, questions, comments?
Just
Yeah,
a
Councilmember Rife, please.
comment. Thanks for all your work and the committee's work. I've heard from fellow neighbors that the awareness is excellent,
Oh, very good.
from the packet to the communication. So great work
Thank you.
out there.
Thank you.
What are we missing for seniors, right? Is it the big thing, a senior a center, right? Like a spot to.
Well, that's one thing that we're going to continue to tap your shoulders about. We've had a lot of discussions around that, and our own robust discussions about what comes next for the seniors of Victoria. The senior center is something that we continue to try to flesh out a bit, knowing that resources are slim, and we might have to take advantage of an existing space. We're not asking for you to break ground, but there may be an existing space within existing city buildings. So we continue to talk about that with Alyssa, and you'll hear more from us about that as appropriate. We just understand that right now isn't the time to be asking for money for that. So we're going to be trying to find subtle ways to insinuate our presence into the community with something that's tangible, that could be named, and that could be a thing. But thank you for asking.
Certainly.
I don't think a senior center is ever a no. I think it's not a right now, so always ask us for the money. Always ask us for the money, and hopefully one day we'll be in a position to be like, yes, right now we're gonna go do that. So, but it's never a no, it's always a not right now.
Thank you.
I think as Councilmember Gunderson points out, yeah, it's the difficult thing, I think, but listening to everybody tonight and then listening to the workshop that we had before, there just seems like we have maybe more chances now than we've had to kind of be able to blend these things and to think through it. Like the Amira project is sort of in its sort of germination stage, so maybe there's something there. We had the Victoria Vics talking about a ball field. Maybe there's a way that there could be something incorporated in that. We have we're going to rethink. We're not rethinking. We're going to construct a new firehouse. Maybe there's some adaptive reuse of the space that we have over at the water treatments. So for these kind of things. So a lot of, I feel green shoots, and I also was along the topic of green shoots. I can recall when we didn't have this committee and we were just forming it and starting new members, because I was also looking to get on planning commission at the very same time, and that isn't that long ago. And a lot has happened in that time. We've had a COVID pandemic put the brakes on things, but kudos to you guys for being able to bring a new, what I'm going to say, relatively speaking, new asset to the community, and just how much progress has been made. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, and kudos to the city staff, because they do all the heavy lifting. We were so excited to be able to be boots on ground to do this walking audit, because we could actually then do some work. because mostly we just bring ideas and then city staff does the work. So they've been very kind. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, well put, Councilmember Evansky. There's just so much opportunity, and the future is just so bright here. And we're trying to get all these parts that are kind of related, moving together, and trying to solve the problems and create some great amenities for our residents. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
All right, last thoughts from the council. All right, seeing none, again, no action is required, so we'll move on. The next item on the agenda, item 6.4, is our third quarter review of our strategic plan progress. And again, this evening is the hardest working Assistant City Manager, Alyssa Swanson. She's running from one end of the room to the other, and
Jumping spots, Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. And I know we usually do this at the end, so it's kind of odd to have this presentation during the middle. But here we are. We're going to review the Q3 update of our strategic plan. And of course, as you all are aware, we'll do a little bit of background just to keep everyone in the room on the same page. This strategic plan was adopted in 2021 after a very long workshop that the council and the community did together. And the fruits of that were about 123 initiatives that were approved within this plan under these 8 categories that are on the screen. So as we're looking at today, and I know that we're nearing the end of this because we're almost getting close to the end of the year, we have completed 100 of these 123 initiatives. And I do want to note that about 5 of them are kind of ongoing and reoccurring. So if we think the Citizens Academy, we've marked that as completed, but we're already thinking about next year. So we're now in the implementation phase and the planning and design phase. So it's not counted in that 100. So actually we have about 105 of those that are technically completed or are continuously being worked on year after year. So just an update on that. We're chugging forward and hopefully get to that 123 by the end of this. Now, as you know, this is the time for our city spotlights, because if you looked at that document, and I do ask for anyone in the audience, anyone watching, council, to open up your staff report on this item. There's a long spreadsheet that details every single one of those 123 initiatives and where we at for them. But we just wanted to take a few of them out and share them with you and share them with the community, because that spreadsheet can get very long. So the first item that we have before you is under public safety, and each year the fire department is geared to have their annual department open house. And this annual house was hosted this September, so just not that long ago, and had over 500 participants anticipated to be there. Now, what this open house is geared towards is really educating the public. They have safety demonstrations of what a grease fire looks like and how you react to them. They had drone demonstrations showing how the department uses the drones in certain situations and emergencies, like spotting where a fire is in a burning building or helping with rescue missions. And they also showed the jaws of life to help rescue occupants of a car. And obviously these things are somewhat for fun, but if you are in those situations, you might be nervous or have anxiety, so it's really good to get the public familiar with some of these pieces of equipment in the case that they may ever be in those situations. So the fire department and the communications department played a big role in this, and we definitely thank them for hosting such a big event. The next one on our list is another type of event. We did host our annual farmers market this year with partnership of Anki Brewing. It was hosted in their back parking lot this year, every Thursday from the end of June all the way till the end of September, and we had a great turnout. So this year, in addition to our own city tent, we decided to showcase other different types of services and resources that are out into the communities. So some examples of that is we brought in the University of Minnesota's turf grass team. So they educated the public on water conservation's efforts and just how you utilize your grass or what grass you plant or how you mow. We brought in some art programs with the Arts Consortium of Carver County. And we also brought in group fitness programs with our own Victoria Recreation Center VicFit team. So just a great way to, again, share the community resources that we have to this community through this market.
Alyssa, could we just back you up on public safety for just a moment?
Absolutely, council member.
I just wanted to point out that one of the big milestones I think that took place in the last quarter is we had delivery of the brand-new fire truck, which really is an asset to the community. I think if I understood our firefighters, that really allows us to up our game with being able to respond to emergencies, have a strong engine for, frankly, a growing community that needs these kind of assets, and it took us a long time to get us there. And a lot of people really put a lot of effort in that. I just want to make that, help you out with that recognition that we added that asset to our community.
Yeah, good point. It's a good one.
Absolutely. And specifically at this event, we had our what we call a push-in ceremonies. So you were able to push in the new fire truck into its new home at the station. So it was a wonderful event and a great way to welcome it home. Going back to fire, under service excellence was to develop and implement a mental health program within the Victoria Fire Department. So in August this year, the department launched a new wellness initiative for firefighters. So just a background a little bit, during the course of fire department work, firefighters are exposed to potential traumatic events, which left unchecked could develop and lead to PTSD, anxiety, and other sort of mental health issues. Actually, some studies suggest that 20% of firefighters meet the criteria of PTSD sometime throughout the point of their fire department career, so that number is quite high. So one of the tools that the city now has is an app called Cortico, which provides the firefighters with a ton of resources to help promote physical and mental well-being. This also allows firefighters instant access to tons of different resources in their time of need. And probably the most important piece about this is 100% anonymous. So they all share the same login credentials. So there's no way for anyone to track or really know what people are logging into them for. It's for them. And we want to make sure that they know that they can utilize those resources without question or concern. So it's a great app that we are now providing a great tool to our firefighters, and we're happy to officially launch this program this quarter. All right, and this is something that our Parks and Committee, or our Parks Chair just recently mentioned, but that was the construction of Bavaria Trail East, which was completed this last quarter. We officially opened the section between Alley Lane and 82nd Street. This piece is a huge connection point, expanding an already an existing major corridor for our trail system. It also links several neighborhoods, the Woodlands, Greenlands on the park, to other amenities in the city, thinking our recreation center, the Arboretum even, and County Road 18, all the way down to Chaska's downtown. So this is a great check off of our list and a really big lift. So we do have to thank our engineering team and the Parks and Recreation Committee to leading this on. And then last spotlight for you, and this is also related to transportation, is the topic of the 82nd Street project, specifically under the initiative of seeking alternative funding for the project. Council, as you know, the necessary funding for 82nd Street was included in the state bonding bill for the design work, and that means the project has moved forward into preliminary design stage. And with that also includes opportunities to educate and engage the community on what's to come and what that actually looks like. So on September 27th, Carver County, the project managers did host one of its many public houses for the community at the Arboretum related to the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan, but specifically for 82nd Street. This event estimated about 240 participants or attendees, and then of course they have all their resources they provided at that event online on their resource, which is again then linked to the city's webpage, and we share all the same communication pages or whatnot on our social media channels. But part of this event was just to share to the community what the project is, what some of the project schedules look like, or at least the most recent project schedules look like, and to see if residents have any questions for the Carver County team or any feedback related to the project. And council, this is a major project for the city. We definitely want to make sure that it is known. Technically, it's Carver County's, but a majority of the work will be done in Victoria. So we will be providing you as well as the community with regular updates related to the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan. Just one of these ways is we'll be bringing this to all of our quarterly updates with our strategic plan, just as a touch point on what's going on, what's happening, and how the community is feeling about it. So with that, I will pass it back to you, Mayor, if anyone has any questions related to any of the spotlights or any of the initiatives.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Council, questions, comments?
I don't really have a comment, but I just wanted to expand on your infrastructure and transportation. The Bavaria Trail is a great connection, but I think I also want to add that we opened up Cochia Lane. We talked about it earlier, and this is, I'm only speaking because it's adjacent to my neighbor, but I feel it's been a great link to bring people up from Madeline Creek, Whispering Hills, to have an easy access for them to come basically straight south and be able to connect to Deanholm Park and be able to connect to the rec center. We can see, as a casual observer, so much more traffic of people just walking their dogs, riding their bikes, and being able to connect our assets to our residents. So thanks to you guys for being able to push forward on opening that. I think it maybe was a little bit earlier than what we originally planned, but it just is a great asset to be able to open that up and bring that access while the season is here before winter hits. So thank you.
Very good. All right, council, other questions, comments? Terrific. Again, good work to the staff. Thank you. This brings our 3 years, it's almost to its end here, and we will reinitiate a new one following this, but 100 out of 123 initiatives. We've been busy for 3 years, for sure. So thank you to you and the staff. Again, no need to take action on that, so we are moving on to our item 6.5, which is a trail variance and a native buffer easement for 6642 Astor Trail. Presenting this evening is our Assistant City Planner. And Will, I'm gonna try your last name, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Let's see if you got it.
I'm gonna go Buhager.
You got it.
Buhager, there we go.
As mayor.
And just for the record, none of those letters are in that spelling. It doesn't look anything like Buhager, but that's how you say it.
The C's silent.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, there's a
But,
couple other silent letters in there too, but welcome and kick us off.
Perfect. Well, again, I'm Will Buhager. I'm the Associate Planner for the City of Victoria, and I'm here today to present the variance request for 6642 Astor Trail. Right here, as you can see, Astor Trail is on the edge of the trail right there, and it's also connected, it's a riparian lot with Lake Virginia. Today, the applicants are requesting a variance from the structure's ordinary high water level setback from a tributary located at 6642 Astor Trail. The applicant, they're here with us tonight, are Lisi Bros, and they are the applicant on behalf of the property owner, Lewis Prescott. This property is zoned R1 low density residential, and it is within our shoreland overlay district as well. They wish to demolish the existing home on the parcel and install a new one in its approximate footprint. Though that leads to the problem and the reasoning of the variance in general. Our zoning code section 22-6D dimensional and general performance standards puts setback standards within our shoreland overlay district, specifically within our ordinary high water levels with general development lakes and tributaries. As such, if you wanted to install a home on a general developed lake and you have structures with sewer, there would be a setback standard here for 100 feet. Though this will also come into play because on the northern portion of the property is a tributary. There is also going to be an ordinary high water level setback for that tributary as well. These are standards set forth by the DNR to help protect our waterways. As such, they're hoping to request a dimensional variance from that code. As you see here, this is the proposed home that they're wishing to build on. The existing one, you can actually see its faint outline is present there as well. We actually have the tributary running from the northern portion of the property here, and as such, This property, the existing one, was built in 1959. That was before our DNR shoreland standard, so it's legal non-conforming. If they were to live in the property now, there wouldn't be any problems and there wouldn't be a need for a variance, but since they would like to remove the home and put a new one in its specific spot, that's where they'll need a shoreland variance to come into play. So they'll have to be 100 feet back from this setback here going along north. There, right now, the proposed home is 31.3 feet. That is extremely close, but that is where the existing home was set. Usually we would ask them to move the home further south on the property, but you may notice here that we have a wetland buffer in the southern portion of the property. The Minnehaha Creek watershed would expect a 25-foot buffer from that wetland area, so it leaves very little area on this property to build a home. So they're requesting a variance tonight from this northern tributary up here to be able to build their home. They're basing this variance on the fact that they just want to build a new one at its proximate location. The house, again, was built in 1959, so before many of these shoreland overlay setback standards were even in play. And due to the 100-foot ordinary high water level tributary setback to the north, they still have to maintain a 100-foot lake setback to the west as well, and they'll have to have a 25-foot wetland buffer to the south. It leaves very few area to build a home on this parcel. Per our standards, variances will be granted and meets the following 4 criteria. I'll just go through them real quick just so we make sure we understand them. The first criteria is the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by this code. They wish to build a home in a residential district, which is a proposed use, it's allowed use, but per our shoreland code, it's just not allowed at this time. The second criteria is the plight of the homeowner is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the landlord or previous landowner. This is a natural tributary. No previous landowner caused this, and the previous ones did not cause this either. The third criteria is the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality. They're wishing to build a single-family home in a residential R1 district. This home will not alter the character of the neighborhood, and with its proximate footprint being right on it, it shouldn't change at all. And the last criteria is economic considerations alone do not constitute a practical difficulty. Again, their practical difficulty is to that tributary on their property. We do not see tributaries on most residential districts within the city. This is a very unique property, and as such, economic considerations, that's not a criteria we're seeing as the reason for their variance. This variance was presented to the Planning Commission on October 3rd. The Planning Commission held their regularly scheduled meeting on October 3rd. They held a public hearing for this variance request as well and did make a recommendation of approval to the City Council. No one stepped forward to make a comment during that public hearing. The notice of the public hearing was mailed out to all properties 350 feet away from 6642 Astor Trail, and the notice of the public hearing was also published in the Chanhassen Villager newspaper on September 21st as well. We've received no real comment from the public and or neighbors for this variance request. I have a sample motion right there for the resolution granting the variance, and we also have the applicant and homeowners tonight. I'm also willing for any questions as well, if you have any at this time.
Wow, thank you. Council, questions?
Mayor?
Yes. Hi.
If I may, I just want
Yes.
I want to confirm something I think is self-evident, but let's just confirm it for the record.
All right.
Associate Planner Buhager.
Yes.
The staff report indicates that we are incorporating a DNR suggestion for a 30-foot drainage and utility easement. To state the obvious, then I take it the DNR was notified of the variance request and given an opportunity to comment, and that's how they've made this recommendation. And I only point that out because our code requires that, but maybe you can confirm that for the record.
Yes, staff has contacted the DNR and the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District for comments proposed to this variance. As stated, They did ask for our staff and the city to establish a 30-foot drainage and utility easement around the on-site tributary. This easement in place would just protect the tributary in future. So even if a new home was going to come in the future, that easement would still protect any encroachment. If they wanted to put a shed, or if they wanted to maybe expand the garage, or if they wanted to put in a larger driveway, it would just help protect the drainage utility easement. That was the only comment and criteria stated for the DNR. Since the property wasn't encroaching into the wetland buffer, the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District just referred back to any DNR comments and made none themselves.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bruhager. Attorney Vos, anything else from you?
No, that does it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right. Council, questions?
I don't know if I have any questions, but I can speak to the Quality Elisi Brothers. We used them to completely remodel our house, so I don't have any questions with quality work or anything like that.
Great. And I think, you know, the concern on doing this is always the quality of the water. We're trying to protect our waterways, and since the DNR and Minnehaha Watershed Creek are in agreement that this is good, and there's a house that sits there now, and they're gonna replace a house that sits there now, I don't know that I have any concerns either. All right. Seeing no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution granting a variance for an approximate 31.3 feet ordinary high water level setback from a tributary requirement specific to zoning code section 22-6D for the property located at 6642 Astor Trail with the following condition. 1, establishing a 30-foot drainage and utility easement around the on-site tributary.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Can all in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Did you get that second, Claudia, from Councilmember Gunderson? Yes, I did. All right, very good. All right, moving on. Next item, 6.6, a public hearing to consider a vacation of an additional easement over Brookmore 3rd Edition. Presenting this evening is our city planner, Brian McCann. Mr. McCann, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Just one moment for me to get my presentation up for you all.
Sure.
All right, thank you for your patience. So tonight we have a request for an easement vacation for the Brookmore development. A little historical background on Brookmore 2nd and 3rd edition, as both of those editions are relevant to the request tonight. For Brookmore 2nd edition, it was approved in February of this year for final plat, and then the 3rd edition was approved this past July. There were also some easement vacations that were approved in June for the 2nd and 3rd developments. So tonight, we are reviewing a request to vacate the easement over all of Outlot C Brookmore 2nd Edition, which encompasses all the area of Brookmore 3rd Edition. So here on the screen, you can see the area that I've highlighted. On the right is Outlot C, which is the entire area for Brookmore 3rd Edition. You can see right under where it says Outlot C that there is a drainage and utility easement over all of it. That is the vacation or easement that will have to be vacated this evening. So for tonight's request, it does include a public hearing, and it was posted on the city's bulletin board as well as the monitor in the lobby. It was also posted on the city's notices page, and it was published in the Chanhassen Villager on October 12th and 19th because state statute requires 2 consecutive weeks of posting for easement vacations. And that was also mailed to property owners within 350 feet of the easement borders. So with that, that's pretty much a quick summary of the situation, and I have a sample motion on the screen for you tonight. This does include a public hearing.
Okay, first off, we have to open up the public hearing, and I will do that now. And is there any? There's no one in this audience. So anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak? And last call. Seeing no speakers, I will now close the public hearing, and council open the floor for discussion. Is there any questions, comments from the council? All right, seeing none, this item does require a 4/5 vote to pass, so I will entertain a motion.
Motion to, Motion to adopt the resolution approving vacation of a drainage and utility easement for Brookmore Third Edition.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item, 6.7, is a comprehensive plan amendment for Hunters Brook, presenting again, once again this evening, City Planner Brian McCann. Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Yes, tonight we have a comprehensive plan amendment request for the Hunters Brook development. A little historical background on this one as well. The preliminary plat for Hunters Brook was approved in 2021. That is typically when staff reviews density for a development, is at the preliminary plat stage. And then after that, a comprehensive plan amendment was approved last year for the Hunters Brook and Marsh Hollow developments. And then pretty recently, a final plat was approved for Hunters Brook Second Edition in July for the 40 lots in the northeast corner of the development. I'll mention again, that we review density at preliminary plat, so we do not review it at final plat typically. So that was just a note for you there. So here's a portion from the comprehensive plan amendment that was submitted to the Metropolitan Council and approved last year. I'll note the final sentence, which I've bolded and underlined, which shows that the Hunters Brook area resulted in a net density for medium density residential of approximately 5.5 units per acre. As you may recall, our medium density requirement is 6 to 12 units per acre, so that's just something to keep in mind. And here's a visual of what was approved on the right versus what was previously existing on the left. You can see a small portion of low-density residential and more medium, and then the site was entirely guided for medium density with last year's comprehensive plan amendment. So how this affects Hunters Brook Second Edition. Pretty recently, they were notified that a sewer permit was being withheld by the MPCA at the recommendation of the Metropolitan Council because of a density discrepancy. As I noted, the net density of the project area for this phase specifically comes out to about 4.9 units per acre. The Metropolitan Council was aware that it was going to be under the medium density requirement for the medium density area. So following up on this, staff had multiple conversations with the regional planning analysts at the Metropolitan Council over this issue. And we were told that the only path for remediation is to get a comprehensive plan amendment to change that medium density designation to low density. So I provide a proposed map amendment tonight that would allow the MPCA to issue the sewer extension permit so that this phase of construction can begin. So here's a copy of that map on the left. Once again, that's what's existing. The entire area in orange is medium density, and then we would just switch it back to the yellow, the low density area. And then just for some knowledge for yourselves, what this looks like for a timeline for approvals for the developer. If you were to approve the amendment tonight, it would have to go to adjacent jurisdictions for a 60-day maximum review. That includes Carver County and the city of Chaska. We were told by the Metropolitan Council that these are the only two adjacent jurisdictions that we absolutely have to notify. So we will submit those to them. And then the comp plan amendment has to go to the Metropolitan Council for a 15-day administrative review. So looking at approximately 75 days maximum from tonight. And then Planning Commission held a public hearing last week on the request. We did not have any resident attendance or received any comments, and they recommended approval of the requested comp plan amendment with a unanimous 6-0 vote. So with that, there's a sample motion on the screen for you tonight, and staff is available for any questions you may have.
Okay, so quick question, if I may. Like, if I understand what level set was going on. Mm-hmm. We had a development plan. The development was, there was an adjacent part of this development that had a higher density described in the comprehensive plan. Mm-hmm. We have a development now that is lowering this density in a more rural area of the city's incorporated area, correct?
Correct.
And now the permitting for sewer is being held up because we are now bringing something that has less of an environmental impact on the development area. And the solution is to simply redraw the borders of and the description of our comprehensive plan so that we can now say we're no longer going to put in a higher density, we're going to put in a lower density, and we achieve this by the plan. Is that a correct summation?
Yes, Councilmember Avansky, the way I'm understanding it, that is correct. The entire plan has never changed from 2021 for this area specifically. The number of units has always been the same, and that includes the comp plan amendment that was submitted to them and approved by them last year.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that. I think we understand it.
Yeah, that this is a departure from our normal practice, I believe, that now we are having to get approval in the final plat rather than the preliminary plat where we always have.
Correct. That's correct, Mayor.
Attorney Voice, this is a little head scratcher for us here. Can you provide some context or some intel?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I think the proposal that's come forward here, the request from staff that's come forward, first of all, to be clear, I think staff is presenting this as the most efficient, the most time-efficient way forward for this developer and for this development. And of course, making this change, I mean, the change that you see on the screen in front of you, changing a very small area of a relatively speaking small development, changing the comp plan guiding simply to allow the development to go forward is a modest change to your comp plan, to say the least. In fact, as I understand it, it will be treated by the Met Council as what they call a minor plan amendment, something that can be dealt with by their staff. And so that's just simply the most administratively efficient way forward for this development and this developer. But bigger picture, Mayor, I think the question you're asking about, Councilmember Avansky has spelled out what's going on here, I think, quite well, has summarized it quite well. I think it'd be fairest for me to say that we, the staff and I, have some questions / concerns about the way this is coming up and the point in time that this is coming up. The concerns are, to go to Councilmember Avansky's description, the concerns are that this is a routine, relatively speaking, routine MPCA, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, issued permit to allow the extension of a sewer in an already approved development, a development already approved by the local government. That should be, one would think, a fairly ministerial act by the MPCA, make sure that there is no pollution concern, no public safety, health safety concern, and issue the permit. What's been inserted in the process is this idea that the Met Council at that stage in the process is going to step in and take a look after the fact, in this case, take a look at how development density corresponds to the Met Council's understanding of our comp plan. That's not something that, in my experience, is normal practice. It may be a new approach, a new development in the way the Met Council and the MPCA are working on these things. I think the concern, speaking for myself, the concern is that I don't understand really that process at this point. It's not been described to me by the Met Council. And so staff has some concerns about how this might affect developments going forward. We don't want to have your developments go all the way through the process, the winnowing down process of narrowing down issues and resolving issues, only to get to the end and sort of have to plop back to the beginning and reevaluate density. So yes, staff, I think, is concerned about how this has gone, but this is the most efficient way forward for this development. We're not going to let the issue, I think, though, go away when this is, assuming you move forward tonight. I think we're going to have to revisit this with the Met Council and to the extent necessary with the MPCA to understand sort of what's going on here.
All right, thank you for that. So the path of least resistance to get this thing moving forward is what I'm hearing. And this, again, does require a supermajority. So Council, Councilmember Gunderson, please.
To tag on to what Bob was saying, and to ask the question about what does this do with our total overall density? Are we kicking are they gonna tag on what we lose in our medium density for this particular area that's been guided and have to add it on to another development, meaning that another development somewhere in the future is gonna have to be more dense than what it currently could, than what it could have been, so that we can make up for what we're losing by reclassifying this particular area?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, yeah. So I think that's exactly the right question, although I don't think it's the only question this begs. But that is one of the questions that this begs for staff is, are we changing the city's overall then guiding, the overall comp plan arrangement that city has and pressing down some density issues onto future developments in a way that the city hadn't contemplated? If this happens enough times, are we pressing over some density issues onto other developments that were not part of our comp plan? That is one of the potential consequences of this, what I'm describing as new thing that has come up in the Met Council and the MPCA's sewer extension permitting process. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know, because I don't fully understand how the Met Council is calculating this. This is a new thing to me. I mean, I'm just being candid with you. It may not be a new thing to all developers or all planners around the metro area, but it's a new thing to me. Yep. And I think it's a new thing within the processes, because I think I would have heard about this if it was a thing. So I think it's a new thing, and we're going to just have to explore what it means and what the implications are. So you're asking the right kind of questions. I just don't know yet what the answers are.
This is probably something we can take offline and ask questions about in a workshop, but it also seems to be, this feels a little bit like something, a local control component to it as well. And so that kind of raises a red flag for at least someone who believes in this 5-member panel, no matter who sits on it, that it seemingly some things are being taken out of this panel's control.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council Member, just to say what you just said in my words, the basic arrangement here with respect to comp plans is that cities create comp plans. We must present them to the Met Council, and there is an iterative process. We negotiate, we discuss with them our comp plan proposal. They give feedback. At the end of the day, we adopt a comp plan that they have approved. So there is a very much collaborative process in doing that. But once that's done, once every 10 years that we do that, the understanding has always been that cities then implement and enforce their comp plans. The Met Council doesn't have a continuing role in reviewing every development against its understanding of our comp plan. And so, I mean, there are plenty of implications if that's the way things are going to go, and it does go to local control. I'm not going to get involved in the sort of the political debate about that, but it clearly raises the issue of who is in control of implementing a city's comp plan. So that's right.
All right, well, the item before us this evening, we are aware of, and it looks like we've got some other issues to tackle after this is done. So, Council, seeing no more discussion, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt the resolution approving submittal of the comprehensive plan amendment to the Metropolitan Council for Hunters Brook Second Edition.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item on our agenda, 6.8, final plat consideration for Marsh Hollow 3rd Edition. Again, the hardest working city planner in the country. Mr. McCann, back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, tonight we have a request from Civil Site Group for Marsh Hollow 3rd Edition. So some historical background on this. The preliminary plat for Marsh Hollow, which was formerly the Rolling Hills South development, was approved by the City Council in August of 2021. The final plat for the 1st edition was approved last February, and then the requested final plat comes before you this evening. For this background, they have proposed 55 townhome lots that are within the previously approved Marsh Hollow 1st Edition area. So that shows everything that's on the screen this evening, the constructed single-family homes there, as well as this townhome area. The reason for this request is due to slight modifications from a different building type, so that shifted some things in the plat and the grading plan that required a revised plat for approval. I mentioned the grading changes. You can see them highlighted in the areas in green around some of the units, just so that the building widths could be wider to allow a certain kind of product. with this, they are still lying within the planned unit development criteria for this development, so they will not be changing anything. This does not require any sort of PUD amendment or rezoning, and staff do believe that the final plat is still generally consistent with the approved preliminary plat. So just so that you can see for yourselves, here's a plat comparison. On the left is the approved first edition, and then on the right is the proposed new plat. The number of units are remaining the same. The general outlot shapes are remaining the same. You'll see some of the units are just a little bit wider or reformatted throughout the development. Very small changes we're talking about here. So with that PUD that I mentioned, these are the lot regulations that were approved. These are not changed. They will still utilize these standards that were approved by the City Council with the first edition in February of 2022. And then going on to the development agreement, this may require an amendment to the first edition development agreement in the future. And then when it comes to development fees and parkland dedication fees, those have already been satisfied for these lots, so staff does not intend to collect these again for this phase. So with that, I have staff's recommendation on the screen tonight with the proposed conditions that were included with your staff report. They're pretty general standards, as you've seen with final plats, including compliance with staff review memos, and the PUD standards, entering into a development agreement, and then furnishing the city with a certified Mylar copy. So with that, I have a sample motion for you on the screen tonight, and staff is available for questions.
Awesome, thank you. Council, questions, comments?
Clarification.
Councilmember Reif.
So units are the same.
Correct.
The only main change is due to building type changing,
Correct.
right? But the standards, everything's the same, consistent from phase one, or I think we call it phase one, correct? Thank you.
Yes.
All right, council, other questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt the resolution approving the final plat for Marsh Hollow Third Edition.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to item 6.9, consideration of an ordinance amending requirements for fences and easements. Again, Mr. McCann, here we go.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, tonight we have a ordinance proposal for you all to amend section 18-9 of the zoning code for fences and retaining walls. I've included a section of the code for you tonight. You'll see at bottom in the part A that retaining walls are not permitted within any easement. That is the only indication that we have in the fences and retaining wall section of what is or is not allowed within easements. This stems from a couple recent inquiries that staff have received in one development particularly that has larger than normal rear yard easements. So I've provided some screenshots of what those easements look like in that development. They range from 25 to 35 feet in the rear yards, so taking up quite a bit of room there. So those are commonly about 5 to 10 foot easements in normal quarter acre properties. And we've actually had to recommend denial or recommend changes to these permits because of the proposed encroachments into these easements, because they house city infrastructure that we don't want impacted from these proposed fences. This has generated some neighborhood frustration, so staff is proactively trying to bring this forward to allow some sort of compromise with the city and potential property owners to allow easements or fences within easements. So tonight, the proposed ordinance, you'll see parts 1 and A are exactly what I had on the screen a moment ago, but we've included part B now. At staff's discretion, fences are permitted within drainage and utility easements. The fence must be placed a minimum distance agreeable to staff to ensure utilities, infrastructure, and drainage are not impacted. These are all things that the city typically reviews a fence permit for anyway. It's standard practice. Most cities that I've come across allow fences within easements. This is just codifying it. And then also that the city will not reimburse a property owner for damaged fencing within these easements. That is also very common. So some benefits of this proposed ordinance. The infrastructure that I mentioned before is protected, and we're not damaged or responsible for damaged fencing. The property owners are still allowed to place fences further into their backyard property lines, even if they do have those larger easements that I mentioned. This is administrative, so it avoids having to come to the city council for an easement encroachment agreement that would be recorded against the property. And as I mentioned, the city has generally done this in practice already. This just codifies it. So this was brought to the Planning Commission with a public hearing last week. No comments were received and no members of the public attended to comment. And the recommendation from the Planning Commission was for the City Council to adopt the ordinance and the summary publication with a unanimous 6-0 vote. With that, I have 2 sample motions on the screen for you tonight, and staff can stand for questions.
All right, and we need to take these 2 separately, correct?
Yes.
All right. Council, questions, comments? Councilmember Gunderson, please.
How far into an easement are we allowing this?
That's the portion about staff's discretion, which I know may seem a little ambiguous, but that allows us, if there are smaller easements without any infrastructure, those standard 5 to 10 foot easements that I mentioned, that's something where we could allow it to go all the way back to the property line versus a 40-foot easement. Say there's something 10 feet in that we want to protect, that gives us the discretion to kind of fluctuate that easement distance.
Okay. We've talked about people doing things on city land within easements, and I know that I just don't want this to become a slippery slope of, well, you've allowed this fence and now I'd like to do this, but it's not technically land I own, right? And so that's kind of where I want to make sure that we're not allowing other things in the future. I get that it's people, they do view the easements as their property, but we have them there for a reason. Right, and it's not that I don't trust staff in their discretion to be able to do their jobs. I just don't want other things to come about because we've made this decision.
Sure, absolutely. And this proposed language is specifically for fences only. If a request were to come forward, say someone wanting to change the code for accessory structures to put in an easement, you as the city council have the most discretion when it comes to zoning ordinances. So that's something that could be denied if that's something that you don't want to see happen in the future. So just some context for you.
Very good, thank you.
But to be clear, this is for putting improvements in easements that have been granted for only drainage and utilities. But the land itself is still the property owner's parcel, correct?
Correct.
So what you're asking for is to have an administrative means of addressing these requests as opposed to having an individual easement agreement brought up and brought and approved before city council each and every time, correct?
Correct.
So how would we deal with the sort of, I want to say, for lack of a better expression, a protest to the staff's discretion? I mean, so, or do with the ordinance, the staff's decision is the staff's decision, and there is no avenue of protest for that?
Okay. Like an appeals process?
Right. Like I don't like the decision you made about my putting a fence on my property. I understand that you have an easement, and you've said don't put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Does the property owner have any process of saying that this can be challenged? I mean, I think when the existing structure correct me if I'm mistaken, but, you know, those challenges have been worked out by the time the easement decision and encroachment has been brought to city council, vetted, and it's agreed, and it's in a form acceptable, and council decides that they're not happy or not satisfied with that for whatever reason, then there would be a way to deny the agreement. I like Councilmember Gunderson said, I think we trust your skill and judgment. I just don't want us to potentially open the door for some sort of firestorm coming forward. Or do we have something that protects us from that concern?
Okay, sure. So when it comes to a request, if a property owner disagrees with staff's interpretation of protecting the easement, then I think our recommended route would be to go through that easement encroachment process to bring that forward for you for consideration to make that final decision. I think that's what the appeals process would be in this situation.
So if somebody doesn't agree with that, then they can say, I want to put that on the council and bring it to council.
So would we bring that through some sort of like a conditional use permitting approach?
Would that be the planning commission? Sorry, Greg.
No, go ahead.
Would that, do you think, well, Greg, would they go through the planning commission then to us, or would it be a straight line?
It would be a straight line to you. We don't typically bring easement encroachment agreements to the planning commission.
Okay.
All right, very good. Any other questions, comments? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion. Okay, this requires two separate motions, so let's start with the first. And again, this is a supermajority vote again because of the ordinance amendment. Okay,
Motion to adopt the ordinance amending section 18-9 of the zoning code.
we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will entertain another motion, a second motion.
Motion to adopt the resolution approving summary publication.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second?
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Council, there are no more items on our regular agenda this evening. So with that, we'll move to reports and emerging issues. Attorney Vos, we'll start with you. Anything from you this evening?
Mayor and council, all is quiet in the legal department. I have nothing to report.
Excellent. Ms. Swanson, anything from staff?
No reports from staff, Mayor.
And council, any reports from city council?
Just be curious to what Bob finds out on some of the stuff we talked about earlier.
Oh, in regard to the Metropolitan.
However that proceeds to progress, and maybe monitor other communities that are going to, that might have similar issues, and see if they're building up on some other back end.
Mayor, if I just
Yeah,
may
Attorney
respond to
Vos,
that,
please.
a good point. Yes, council member, certainly the plan is for the staff and I to follow up on that, and it's a good point. We will certainly report to the council at a meeting on how that goes. And I think we will be communicating with other interest groups, whether it be cities in the metro or developer groups. We have a developer group friend that we've dealt with other issues on that now we'll probably be more similarly situated with. And so we'll work with all the groups that care about this issue to get you some more information.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else, council? All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.